start out learning how to do the perfect high five. We'll cover assessment and look at the different components of that, which we look at when we look at abnormal psychology. That helps us come to a diagnosis. And then if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about treatment. The first, perfect high five. So I need a volunteer. All right, come on over. Okay. So the key to giving a perfect high five, because if you've ever done it and you went like this and you're like, oh, I feel really stupid, it's no fun, right? So, perfect. So the perfect high five is to watch the other person's elbow. So you're gonna watch my elbow, I'll watch your elbow, and we will give a perfect high five every time. Sorry. Find a partner, watch their elbow, give a perfect high five. Okay, go ahead.
That was actually really bad. Wait, just keep going.
How many of you come into a class before and you were like, man, I'm stressed out, I'm thinking about, all these things going on at home, I got finals coming up, I'm kind of freaking out. Ever feel that way when you get into class? Well, that's what this has to do with. Hopefully, doing something fun, like perfect high five, laughing a little bit, takes that stress level and brings it down a little bit. You're more likely to learn if your stress level's low. And when we talk about abnormal psychology, one of the key components of it is stress. Stress plays a huge role in causing mental illness. So it's one of the things I wanted to help with you is help de-stress a little bit so that you can learn a little more and have a little fun today. So first thing off the agenda. The next thing we're going to do is take a look at a little video of a patient, and we're going to work through the assessment process. So in front of you, there's a piece of paper, and there are also colored pencils. I need everybody to grab a colored pencil. When you get that colored pencil, at the top of your page, you're going to write these words. Presenting problem. Leave yourself some space, it doesn't have to be huge. Just write the word presenting problem.
I guess I'm here because I'm tired all the time. I'm really in a rut lately. I keep forgetting things too, stupid things. It's really frustrating. Honestly, I almost forgot today's appointment.
Can I get someone from this back table to give me one thing he was complaining about?
Being tired.
Tired. Over here, something else.
Felt like he was in a rut.
In a rut. Over here.
He was forgetful.
Forgetful. Anybody else? What else did you hear?
It's frustrated.
Frustrated. Anything else? Good. Those are some of the key things. Now, what's the diagnosis? We don't know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know. We may have an inkling. Someone over here kind of like depression, maybe. But there's not enough here to say for sure it's depression. Maybe that's what we're thinking. You want to be really careful though as you move forward, because if I'm thinking depression, as I gather more and more information, I may start to confirm that. You guys familiar with the term confirmation bias? Okay. Or we're biased towards paying attention to what fits with what we think. Okay? So you want to try to remain as objective as possible. So that was a bit of a trick question here. We don't know what the diagnosis is. We need a lot more information. So you have choices here. We can gather more information, and depending on a clinicians or a psychiatrist or psychologist, social worker, whoever they are, depending on how they've been trained, they may go different paths. Also depending on where they work, they may be told this is what you do versus this is what you do. Okay? So our first choice is we're going to gather some information via an interview, but we can do either a structured interview or an unstructured interview. Now, seeing those two words, what do you think the difference is?
Since structured, the person's asking them direct questions, and it's more just linear.
Definitely. The structured interview is a set list of questions. What we tend to use is abbreviated as the MMSE, the Mini Mental Status Exam. So we have the Mini Mental Status Exam is what our structured interview will be. It's a short test to see how well is this person functioning at this point in time. Or we can do an unstructured interview, which allows the clinician to ask questions wherever they tend to want to go. So if the patient's complaining of being in a rut and they're like, well, I think there may be something to that, they can ask more questions on that. The unstructured interview gets a wider range of information, but I'm sorry, the structured interview gets a wider range of information, but it doesn't allow you to go where you want. So where do we want to start, structured or unstructured? Who wants to start with structured? Who wants to start with unstructured? I think there's more for structured. Guess what? This patient has the best insurance ever, so we can do both. So we'll start with the structure because it's first. So write down any key facts you get out of it. All right, so that was the structured mini mental status exam. I'd like you to just, with the people you're sitting by, compare what you saw there and see if you can add anything to your list based on what you guys saw. And we're going to break down the symptoms at this point as verbal symptoms, so things we heard him say, and nonverbal symptoms, so things we might have picked up about his body language, how he's dressed, and other things like that. So, anybody got a symptom or anything you saw that went wrong during the interview? What was it? And let's see if we can categorize it as verbal or nonverbal. You seemed irritated. So, nonverbal? All right. How was he irritated? What did you see?
Kind of like
Sighing, okay. Anything else that saw people that look like irritation?
Give up.
Gave up. Anything else?
Easily.
What's that?
You seem to get frustrated with the counting backwards thing.
Frustrated with counting backwards? Any body language things you saw?
Just like rubbing his hands.
Rubbing his hands. I think he was one like this at one point, right? Yeah. So we saw some irritation. What additional information do you have here? And the end goal being, I want you to have not necessarily a diagnosis, but an inclination. Some resources here to help you figure out, I may be leaning a certain way. Let's look and see what depression looks like. Let's look and see what anxiety looks like, or whatever you think it is. So use those as your resources. I'd also like you guys as a group to try to break things down, break your symptoms down, bio, psycho, and socially. So someone at the group use that extra sheet of paper and make a little grid to say, here's the biological symptoms he shows, here's the psychological ones, here's the social ones. And then you can use that as kind of your guide to say, hey, does that fit with where we're going? All right, so go ahead and start working on that. Yes, how many of you want memory testing? Everybody, good. Look at this picture. What's the story here? What's happening? All right, hold on a second. What's that?
Guy just died and she's sad about it.
He just died and she's sad by it. Does anyone have a different story?
Or she killed him.
Or she killed him. That's another option, right?
See, it's crazy.
Or maybe, how might our patient who has alcohol problems look at this?
Pass out for one.
He's passed out and she's nagging him again, right? Does that fit with what we saw so far? His wife's always complaining about him. She just wants him for his money. I don't drink that much, but people just don't like me. That might be how he breaks the story. What they do is they compare your answers to the tens of thousands of other people who have taken this test and who have various different conditions. Some have had depression, some have had schizophrenia, some have had been antisocial, and then some have just been normal. Well, normal, quote unquote normal. So. Okay, so we have substance use, we have depression. What did you guys say? I think you guys went down a different path, right?
Yes. We said the borderline personality disorder.
Borderline personality disorder. Okay. All right, for our last task, you guys have depression, you guys have substance use, you guys have borderline personality disorder. As a group, you need to come up with a treatment plan for